Welcome to part 2 of our Infinity Sign series, where we take what we learned in the first video and begin putting it into practice. In part 1, we explored what the infinity sign really represents and introduced 5 different ways we can begin working with it as a practical tool for experiencing reality in an entirely new way. Today, we're going to explore 2 of these in much greater depth. First, we'll look at how the infinity sign can become a gateway beyond our ordinary experience of linear time, allowing us to explore other timelines and what we call previous lives or parallel realities from the perspective of being an observer. We'll also explore how, at a fundamental level, the infinity sign is a bridge for communication with other forms of consciousness, whether they are interdimensional, extraterrestrial, or even what we call extradimensional, which is something quite different altogether. We'll talk about those differences in just a moment. Most importantly, I'm going to share a practical exercise that you can begin using yourself. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand the infinity sign much more clearly, but you'll also have the tools to begin experiencing what it can do for yourself. It's a fascinating landscape to explore. All right, let's begin with the understanding that the infinity sign is fundamentally a geometric representation of infinity. But it's much more than a symbol. It's a gateway, a doorway that allows you to move into a different state of being. That state of being might be simply moving from a frequency that represents the state of illness into a frequency that represents a state of health, or moving from a state of fear into a state of peace. It might be moving from the frequency of a limiting belief, such as poverty consciousness, into a frequency of a version of yourself that already knows the state of abundance. Or it may be something far more expansive, stepping beyond the normal experience of this third-dimensional space-time reality into a state of consciousness where the usual constraints of time and space fall away, and consciousness can directly experience realities that would normally appear separated by time, distance, or identity, because it's no longer bound by the limitations of this dimension. Because at its core, the infinity sign is a bridge to any frequency. It's the bridge into what's commonly known as the void, the liminal state, or the state of pure potential, a neutral state of awareness where you're no longer identified with your current experience. From that place, you have the freedom to consciously choose the state of being you prefer to embody, the reality you prefer to experience. In the first video, I shared an exercise where simply focusing on the infinity sign, whether tracing it in your mind with your finger through the movement of your body, or simply by breathing in a figure-8 pattern, helps bring both hemispheres of the brain into a more balanced state. It's an important exercise to continue because through this practice, you're developing a greater sensitivity to the movement of energy within your own consciousness. Like learning a new skill or strengthening any muscle, the more you work with it, the stronger that awareness becomes. Over time, you'll become increasingly aware of how the geometry of the infinity sign moves energy and influences your own energetic state. The first exercise we'll explore is using the infinity sign to access other timelines, other realities, past lives or parallel. Before I show you how, I'd like to share the experience through which I first discovered this for myself. For a brief period of time, someone came into my life. It was one of those connections that happens almost instantly, so familiar, so powerful and meaningful that it seems to defy any logical explanation. I had the unmistakable feeling that our meeting served a much greater purpose than simply getting to know each other. Around that same time, something very strange began happening. I'd repeatedly see a vertical infinity sign in my mind's eye, suspended right in front of me. I also found myself with an overwhelming urge to trace a horizontal infinity sign with both hands, like this. It would gradually build up speed. Then one day, without knowing why, I pushed my hands through each of the two hoops of the infinity sign, rotated my wrists, and turned my palms upward, just like this. At the time, I had absolutely no idea why I was doing it. It wasn't something I'd ever learned about or even thought about. Then one day, while doing this, I suddenly became aware of another pair of hands on the opposite side of the infinity sign. Instinctively, we each reached out and grabbed each other's wrists, creating what felt like an energetic connection. I immediately knew that the person was the man that I'd recently met. In the next instant, I felt myself pulled through a vortex. Suddenly, I found myself standing in an old, dilapidated cabin. I was a young child. The man from this current life appeared to be my older brother. I simply observed with no emotion, no fear, no attachment, only observational awareness. I watched as an older man, who I instinctively knew was our father, dragged me across the room by my hair. My brother, still only a child himself, tried desperately to protect me. He was struck down to the floor. Then the experience became holographic. I instantly became aware of countless moments through our childhood that carried the same pattern. Again and again, I watched my brother try to protect me, powerless to stop the abuse. The scenes shifted into our teenage years, where the violence escalated, as did the confrontations between my brother and our father. Eventually, I witnessed a moment where, in an effort to protect me, my brother ended my father's life. Throughout the entire experience, I was completely neutral. I wasn't reliving the events, just witnessing them in a passive, neutral state of observation. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the entire holographic experience folded back into itself, back into the vortex, which suddenly snapped me out of it. What shocked me most was the experience of receiving a massive download of this child's entire lifetime in a split second. Thousands of moments, relationships, emotions, understandings in an instant. Quite impossible to describe. Now, the man I'd recently met happened to be a black belt in martial arts. He taught self-defense, regularly trained with firearms, and had an extremely difficult, almost non-existent relationship with his father. This became part of the holographic experience, and I saw the greater picture. The impulse to protect had become a fundamental pattern within the state of being he was expressing in this life. Protecting himself, protecting others. It had become woven into the very fabric of who he had become, of his current state of consciousness. It took me several weeks to fully integrate this experience and understand the role the infinity sign had played. I then began cautiously experimenting with it, and now it's become one of the most powerful tools I use for exploring states of consciousness beyond this third dimensional reality. So, before we get practical, let's take a moment to define a few terms, because they're often used interchangeably when they are actually describing very different experiences. The term interdimensional refers to dimensions that overlap or intersect with our own, but aren't normally visible to us. Think of them as layers of reality that coexist with ours, almost like hidden rooms in a house that you know are there, even though you can't see them. Just like here on Earth, these environments contain forms of life that naturally belong within those dimensions. The term extradimensional refers to states of consciousness or intelligences that exist outside the familiar structure of the dimensions we experience. Rather than existing alongside our reality, they exist beyond the framework itself. They represent extremely high orders of intelligence and awareness. Intelligences that are non-spatial, transcending the confines of dimensional perception. They are active participants in the formation and the organization of dimensional realities like our own, shaping and contributing to the framework that allows these dimensions to actually exist. It's a very, very different type of experience altogether. This is such a vast topic that I'll dedicate an entire video to it for those who are interested in this advanced exploration. And finally, extraterrestrial simply refers to beings or civilizations that originate somewhere other than Earth. They may exist on other planets or within other star systems. Although they may experience space and time differently from us, they are still participating within what we call a dimensional reality. Now that you have a clearer understanding of these different definitions, you can begin to orient yourself towards the experience you'd like to explore when working with the infinity sign. So, now let's get practical. First, as always, begin by setting your intention. What would you like to have as an experience? Is it communication with intelligences outside the reality you currently perceive? Maybe you'd like to explore an archetypal form, such as the dragon energy, or another mythical being, or elemental beings, the nature spirits, angelic consciousness, or extraterrestrial civilizations from a particular star system. Or maybe you'd simply like to experience a form of life completely different from our own. For example, while connecting with the energy of Upheaval Dome in Utah, I experienced a bubble-like form of consciousness that was filled with curiosity about my presence. It began to very gently and non-invasively explore my entire being, fascinated by the physicality of the human body and the way it functioned. It was amazing. Incidentally, Upheaval Dome is an impact crater that acts as an interdimensional gateway, orienting you to forms of intelligence that communicate in a very different way than we do. So, spend some time setting your intention. With that clear direction, come into a relaxed state and begin breathing deeply. Your eyes can be open or closed, whatever works best for you. Form the infinity sign vertically in front of you, extending to about the size of your body, or even larger. Begin tracing the sign with your eyes or your finger, watching its geometry grow brighter and brighter with each pass. Take your time, allowing it to become stronger, brighter, more energized, pulsating with this powerful energy. Now, this experience will unfold in whatever way is most appropriate for you. If the infinity sign chooses to reorient itself horizontally, that's perfectly fine. If it begins rotating around its central point, like the blades of a helicopter, that's fine too. Don't try to control what it should do or what it should become. Now, begin to see the central point of the infinity sign glowing in a pulsating rhythm. Take a moment to notice the rhythm of your own heartbeat. You'll find that the two naturally begin to synchronize. Spend a few moments building that connection, feeling that connection, and begin synchronizing your breath with the beating of your heart and the pulsation of the central point of the infinity sign. It may become 3 pulses on each inhale and 3 pulses on each exhale, or perhaps 4. Let the rhythm emerge. When the moment feels right, feel the infinity sign be drawn towards your body like a magnet, its pulsating energy merging with your heart energy center. Feel its energy envelop your entire body, infusing it with energy and power, opening you to the experience. You may find the infinity sign expands into a hyperdimensional form, with the upper loop rotating into one sphere and the lower loop into another. Or it may begin vibrating or rotating on a central axis of your heart. Whatever it chooses to do will be unique and perfect for you. Just let the experience unfold and see what happens. I'd love to hear about your personal experience in the comments. These are advanced explorations, so treat them with respect and sincerity, and you'll be greatly rewarded. A common question I get asked is, what about protection? Don't I need to protect myself from negative or hostile energies? My answer is always the same. Not unless you believe you need to. Nothing, and I mean nothing, can be experienced in this practice unless you give it permission to be so. You cannot experience something you are not the vibration of. If you have a fearful or negative experience, remember this. Your experience is not determined by what you encounter. It's determined by the state of being from which you encounter it. All right. With that, we'll bring this to a close. In the next video, we'll explore using the infinity sign to transform your physical experience, both as a tool for healing and for accelerating the mastery of any skill. Remember, the greatest discoveries are never about the ones you're told. They're the ones you experience for yourself. I'll see you in part 3. Questions or comments are always welcome. I read them all. And I've also left a question in the pinned comment for any insights that you'd like to offer. If you like the sharing and you'd like to hear more, please hit the like button, which helps me know if you're inspired by my teachings. For more insights and for part 3, tap the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released. Thank you so much for listening and for being part of this beautiful growing community where we learn to work with the patterns of existence that transform every aspect of our physical lives. Superhuman made simple with the architect.